Grumph and Gurdle. This is the story of Grumph and Gurdle. Grumph is a strange creature. The first thing you notice about him is his hairy hair. His face is hairy, his neck is hairy, his arms are hairy, his chest is hairy, and his legs are hairy. This in itself isn't very unusual, for many of the people in the land of Winkle are hairy, not as hairy as Grumph, mind you. In fact, most people preferred to be called Fuzzy. Grumph was unusual, though, even in the land of Winkle, which is on the edge of a big pond. Now, most people who lived near the pond were hunters. Some people hunted fish. Some people hunted frogs. Some people hunted beavers. Some people hunted dragonflies, and still others actually hunted swans. Grumph didn't like hunting. Grumph wanted to be a poet. Often the other people asked Grumph what he did for a living. He would tell them he was a poet. People said this was very fine, but what did he hunt? When Grumph said he didn't hunt anything, they asked him how he got his bones. When Grumph said he didn't have any bones, the other people quickly walked away. You see, they were afraid that Grumph would ask them for some of their bones. The truth was, Grumph didn't really want any bones. People said this was because he was lazy. This hurt Grumph, but he tried not to show it. You see, Grumph liked people and wanted people to like him, but every day all the other people went hunting, and Grumph went alone down to the edge of the pond. There he would lie in the sun and smoke bulrushes. Grumph didn't like hunting. Grumph wanted to be a poet. Often the other people asked Grumph what he did for a living. He would tell them he was a poet. People said this was very fine, but what did he hunt? When Grumph said he didn't hunt anything, they asked him how he got his bones. When Grumph said he didn't have any bones, other people quickly walked away. You see, they were afraid that Grumph would ask them for some of their bones. Truth was, Grumph didn't really want any bones. People said this was because he was lazy. This hurt Grumph, but he tried not to show it. You see, Grumph liked people and wanted people to like him, but every day all the other people went hunting and Grumph went alone down to the edge of the pond. Here he would lie in the sun and smoke bulrushes while talking to his friends, the frogs and swans. Now, smoking bulrushes was against the rules. People knew instinctively once you started smoking bulrushes, you stopped hunting. Once you stopped hunting, you didn't get any more bones. There's a rule in the land of Winkle that everybody collected as many bones as possible. The more bones you had, the more friends you had, the more people respected you. Since Grumph didn't have any bones, he didn't have many people friends either. Fortunately, he had a lot of animal friends. You see, they liked Grumph very much because he didn't hunt them like the other people. Every day, Grumph hid in the tall grass and talked to his animal friends while smoking bulrushes. Since he was a poet, he spoke to them in poems like this. Frog, frog on the log, have you seen the puppy dog? Now, some of the bulrushes were stronger than other bulrushes, and if they're strong enough, the frog would answer him thus. Croak, croak, have a toke, they tied him up with a rope. Now, Grumph was happy with his friends, the frogs, the swans, and tadpoles. He didn't have a wife like other men, but this was because he didn't have any bones. You see, in the land of Winkle, a wife cost many bones, and poor Grumph didn't have any. Still, he was happy with his lot, lying in the tall grass, until he saw a girl bathing in the pond. And the girl didn't see him, and since Grumph was rather shy, he didn't speak to her, but remained hidden in the tall grass. Up to this time, Grumph thought the most beautiful thing he ever saw were the wings of the dragonfly, but this girl was even more beautiful than that. She had long brown hair, and her skin was dazzling white. Grumph came under her spell. He wanted to speak to her, but he was tongue-tied, which is rather unusual for Grumph, seeing as he was a poet. He wanted to know her name, and decided to ask the dove. Dove, dove, flying above, what's the name of the girl I love? Now, the dove knew her name, but wouldn't tell him, because the dove knew it was hopeless for Grumph to fall in love, because he didn't have any bones. No girl would go out with a boy unless he gave her many bones. Now Grumph should have known better, but he was in love and there wasn't any help for it. Funny thing about love is it's much easier to fall into love than it is to fall out of it. In any case, Grumph was very sad to see her leave. All day he walked around the pond asking the animals if they knew her name. The muskrat wouldn't tell them, and neither would the mole. See, the animals were afraid that if he loved this girl, he would want to marry her and might even become a hunter to give her bones. Finally, the turtle took pity on him. "Urk, urk, my name's Turtle. Urk, urk, her name's Gurdle." Gurdle, what a beautiful name. You have to admit it sounds a lot prettier than Grumph, doesn't it? Well, that's because Gurdle is a girl's name and Grumph is a boy's name, and we all know that girls are prettier than boys. The animals did their best to cheer Grumph up, but it was no use. He didn't laugh anymore. He didn't joke anymore. All he did was lie on his back and stare at the clouds, and guess whose face he saw in the clouds? That's right, Gurdle's. Even when the sun went down and the sky turned black, even when the stars came out, they formed an outline of her face. Now all the animals felt very sorry for Grumph. They sat in a circle around his bed of moonbeam and asked if they could help. "Swan, swan, gentle fawn, bring my love to me this dawn." You know that's exactly what they did. When Gurdle went to the pond to bathe in the morning, the snapping turtle swam up behind her and started nibbling at her toes. Poor Gurdle, how she splashed and screamed for help. At that very moment the swan glided by and urged her to climb upon his back. Gurdle was a little frightened because she had never met a talking swan before, but she was even more frightened of the snapping turtle and climbed upon the swan's back. The swan took her immediately to where Grumph was hiding in the tall grass. Grumph said, "Pretty maid, with eyes so fine, come lie with me to pass the time." Gurdle replied, "Oh, please, kind sir, with friends so true, first give me your name so I might know you." Grumph said, "My name's Grumph, your name's Gurdle, this is Swan, and this is Turtle." Having been introduced, Gurdle felt more at ease. She was curious about this young man who spent his days speaking rhymes to animals instead of going hunting with the other men. She was curious, too, about the animals she had never heard of speaking to people. She had heard about bulrushes, of course, in school, and how dangerous it was to smoke them. Grumph told her he didn't hunt animals because they were his friends. She wondered where he got his bones. He said he didn't have any bones. Now this was unbelievable to poor Gurdle. Everybody collected bones. Her father wasn't a rich man, but he had an average number of bones. There were blue bones, red bones, green bones. "What good is a bone?" Grumph asked. "Well, if you had enough bones, you can buy a house or a motorboat." "True," Grumph said sadly. He pointed out the animals were getting scarcer and scarcer. The land of Winkle was prosperous, but the animals were gradually disappearing because people hunted and killed not only enough for them to eat, but as many as possible so they could put bones in the bank. Those with enough bones bought motorboats. This enabled them to hunt more animals and get more bones, but the noise of their engines were driving away the birds, and the gasoline leaking from their motors was poisoning the pond. All the animals nodded in agreement with Grumph. "It's true," said the otter, whose brothers and sisters were all caught by the people of Winkle and made into bones. Sooner or later, he pointed out, all the animals would be gone. The people wouldn't even have food to eat, and of course, no more bones.